Green Level is a new high school in its inaugural year this fall. As the school vision states, Green Level and its students and staff are dedicated to cultivating an equitable, inclusive, and culturally responsive environment that promotes self-discovery and fosters the realization of every student's potential. I read a few news articles about race and how students can be affected by it in schools. According to how racism affects minority students in public schools, students of color can face bias in schools through harsher discipline, racial microaggressions from peers and teachers, smaller chances to be identified as academically or intellectually gifted, or even lesser access to quality teachers. This article also provided shocking statistics about suspensions and expulsions of colored students. Firstly, Southern states, including North Carolina, make up 55% of the suspensions and 50% of expulsions of Black students in the United States. Additionally, Black students are 3 times more likely to be suspended or expelled than white students, leading to African American students missing school and falling behind their peers. On top of all of that, I learned from the Harvard Education Publishing Group that many Americans believe that we are in a post-racial society, especially after Obama's terms of presidency. However, race is a constant influence in our history, society, and personal relationships, and shouldn't be ignored. Race, according to Professor Lawrence Blum, is an asymmetric category. This means that prejudices and stereotypes of different races are not morally equivalent. Even though racism seems to target colored people, this doesn't indicate that white students are unaffected. In fact, all students can be impacted by racism. I was dismayed by these statistics, and though I myself hadn't experienced any racism at Green Level besides some minor microaggressions, I wondered if these racial differences existed at Green Level, even with the promotion of an equitable, inclusive, and culturally responsive environment. To find out, I decided to ask some different students their thoughts on this topic. I first approached Emily, whose skin is a warm brown color. She told me that she is Vietnamese and Burundi. When asked whether or not racism exists at Green Level, she replied,
I feel like they are, but it's not to that extreme as it was. Because since our school is so new and it's placed in the area where there's a lot of diverse people, since new neighborhoods are rising up and people from all around the country are immigrating into those neighborhoods, moving into those neighborhoods, they bring a heat of diversity that kind of makes those prejudice things less extreme. But I feel like you can't. Not everyone here has a completely open mind, although the majority of people are open to all races and cultures. They're not that I've seen so far. It isn't as extreme as it was in middle school with all of the cliques and stuff that are defined by race. We have the white people, the black people, the Mexicans. They were very separated. And I guess it's kind of because, but even the classes were kind of separated. I remember some higher classes they had the whites and the Asians, but for some lower classes they had the blacks and the Mexicans, and the Latinos and everyone. And so that kind of made those cliques more stronger and kind of caused a divide, whether the people who made those decisions to divide the classes wanted that or not. But I feel like here everyone's at a more level base. And even if looking in the commons area right now, I don't see cliques based off race. I see cliques based off their interests and their fashion and people. It's just their personality. It's kind of nice to see rather than race.
She went on to compare Green Level's racial inclusivity to her previous school, Salem Middle.
When you asked me about if there were any prejudices against racism and stuff like that at Green Level, it reminded me of how little of it there is compared to Salem. For instance, in Salem, I would have people come up to me not people come up to me, but when we talk about classes and stuff, at orientation or something, I'd be like, oh yeah, I take Math 2 or Math 3, and you're you take a high level of math, you take that? I'm yes, yes I do. And you're oh wow, I thought only Asians took that. I'm no. And then I even had people come up to me you're only good at math because the Asian side of you. I'm But my dad taught me math, and he's like the black one, quote unquote, the black one. And so it's kind of like I see this like, stereotype rejected at green level. Like when I came into the classroom, I see people of all different types of races. In math 3, I come and I see people of all different types of cultures and races, not just like the Indians and the white people and the Asians. And that's kind of like refreshing because ever since I've been accepted into a higher math since 3rd grade, I haven't seen one black person in the classroom. It was just me like, every single year. So it was kind of like refreshing seeing, okay, there's diversity in like a higher field. And it's kind of inspiring as well. So that's nice.
Next, I spoke to Rathi, who is of Indian origins. She told me about racial stereotypes that people tend to believe based on her appearance.
I think this does exist in green level because I've seen many people come up to me and say, "Hey, you're smart. Can you help me with this?" Maybe because I am Indian, but maybe because I give the Asian, smartness appearance to everyone. For an example, the other day in AP, one of my peers was asking me, "Hey, what math do you take?" to other people in my class. When they came to me, they obviously knew that I was taking Math 3. They just assumed, they didn't even ask me. They're like, "Okay, you're taking Math 3." And I didn't even know them, so it's not like I told them or anything. So I just feel like when people see Indians or other Asian races, well, you know what I mean, they just think, "Hey, you're smart." They just have that mindset in them, and they don't see the other parts of them.
Finally, I spoke to Ben, a white freshman. He is of Italian and Irish descent. When I asked him if there are racial differences here, he said,
I feel as though there are some differences, but not a lot.
Green Level is a lot more inclusive than most other schools, which may be a result of the newness of the school. However, there are still stereotypes and prejudices that exist at Green Level based on these students' opinions and experiences. We need to continue to draw awareness to how these differences and barriers exist and have an open mind to others, no matter how they look. As a school with an equitable, inclusive, and culturally responsive environment, each one of us has a responsibility to listen to, include, and be accepting of others. Thanks for listening to this conversation in diversity.